Hello and welcome to Kirkcaldy's Heritage in 50 Objects, and I'm here again with Alan Crombie. Hello Alan.
I'm very well, thanks, and thank you for asking me again. We've now, this week on the 12th, it will be the fifth object which hits the presses on the Facebook and the website. So we're a tenth of the way there, so 45 to go.
Is that all?
Well, it's a bit as much as I'll manage, but I'll be glad to get there.
So what is this fifth object then? Tell us all about it.
Well, the fifth object is very exciting from 2 points of view. First of all, we've had our first guest writer prepare a story for us, or a narrative, and also the main subject is someone I knew the name of. I knew a little bit about them, very small part of their story, but as I've researched, I've become really fascinated with this man who is John W. Blyth, or he was John W. Blyth. If you're up in Park Road, you'll see his factory, or the family factory, which was Hockley Muir. Part of it is now very nice flats, but that was a linen factory from 1853 until 1961. The family ran it, and John W. Blyth was an avid art collector, and a great deal of the jewels in the crown of Kirkcaldy Art Gallery are down to John.
Ah, really?
And secondly, and possibly more famously, John W. Blyth is the grandfather of Michael Portillo. Michael Portillo being the politician, if you're old enough, and if you're younger, then he's the railman on BBC Two with his railway journeys.
Yes,
and the connection is that John Blyth's daughter, or his youngest daughter, Cora, is in fact Michael Portillo's mother. So she's a Kirkcaldy lass, and that's the connection. So I borrowed from Sir Walter Scott, where I'm calling this story Tales of a Grandfather, and it's Michael Portillo's recollections of his grandfather, and we've topped and tailed it with a little potted history of Michael Portillo and a fairly long essay on John Blyth and the part he played in Kirkcaldy's culture. And indeed, when you read the story, Kirkcaldy's due a huge cultural debt to him.
Tell us more about that. I'm interested.
Well, I will indeed.
Artworks.
I'll start with Michael Portillo, if you don't mind, simply because I first realised his Kirkcaldy connection. I might have known about him being Michael Portillo's grandfather, but in 2003 he took part in a campaign he took part in a TV programme called Restorations. Now, what happened was that every Sunday, 3 buildings which had fallen on hard times and were really in a state of dilapidation were judged against each other, and eventually the winner was to receive a multi-million-pound makeover. And Michael Portillo championed the Nairn Works in Victoria Road in Nairn Street.
Oh, yeah.
But sadly, he was beat by a Palladian villa in Edinburgh, and eventually the winner came from England, and they had a multi-million-pound restoration done. But it was then that I really realised the depth of Michael Portillo's connection to Kirkcaldy. Now, John W. Blyth, as I said, he was the third generation of a family of linen manufacturers, and they really made their money through army procurement contracts when linen was the staple necessity for uniforms, tents, etc. And he became, as many others did at the turn of the 20th century, to start investing in art. And in time, he built Wilby House, which is now a nursing home down in Loughborough Road. He built that, and eventually had so many paintings in the house that he had to start lending or placing some of his paintings in Kirkcaldy Art Gallery. He just simply couldn't manage to have them all contained in Wilby House. So roughly half his collection, which numbered over 300, at any one time hung in the art gallery, and the other half were in Wilby House. Very avid collector, and he was especially keen on William McTaggart, one of Scotland's finest landscape artists, and Samuel Peploe, who is one of the foremost colourists. He was one of the 4 colourists. And Mr. Blyth built up a fine collection. And the great thing is, on his death, the family did not donate paintings to the art gallery, but they sold 118 at a knockdown price of £9,000.
Wow.
And there's just no question, 9,000 seems a lot of money, but a Peplo sold maybe 2 or 3 years ago for 952,000.
Wow.
I'm not for a second saying that the Peplos in Kirkcaldy are worth that money, but it gives you an idea of the quality of John Blyth's collection and how, even after his death, people from Kirkcaldy, Fife, Scotland can all go and see massive works of art. So that was where John Blyth came from. Very, very instrumental in Kirkcaldy's art gallery's collection. And in fact, he was the convener of the art gallery, or honorary convener, from 1925 until his death in 1962. So he contributed a huge amount to Kirkcaldy's culture. He championed Scottish artists, and he held 1 or 2 exhibitions, one for as a memorial exhibition to Peplo, and he curated exhibitions for the memorial to Samuel Peplo, and he also did one of Burnell's. He also did one of Burrell's collection when Burrell had no home for his artworks in Glasgow.
Wow.
So I read an interesting article which said that it compared Kirkcaldy Art Gallery to the Tate of the North, because at the time it was a really, really high quality art gallery collection. And you've got to remember, until the 80s, there was no Gallery of Modern Art in Edinburgh, and no Burrell collection had no home, permanent home. So therefore, Kirkcaldy really was an outstanding gallery, and that is down to the hard work of John Blyth. And may I say, Kirkcaldy Town Council spending £9,000 to buy the collection, and it's just fascinating how a local man can do so much for the art gallery, and yet in a wee straw poll I did, hardly a soul knew his name. Of 40 people, I think I got 2 who knew about him. One knew the name was Michael Portillo's grandfather, but that was it. A man forgotten in his own town. So we are pressing ahead with the story, which we hope will encourage people to go to the art gallery, assuming it's open. And we're also asking Fife Cultural Trust if they will consider an exhibition of the John Blyth collection in March next year, because he'll have been dead 60 years.
Fabulous.
Or in 2023, he will be a 150th anniversary of his birth. So it seems like a nice time to just resurrect him and show him in a better light, or a stronger light.
I visited the art gallery a few weeks ago, and I go once every 8 weeks or so, because I turn around the paintings.
Yes.
Because they've got such a large collection, and
yes.
you can go into the art gallery and you can get lost in the images and the colours, because they're so vivid. We're very, very lucky.
We are indeed, but honestly, they've done a lot since he died in 62 and we bought the collection for the town. But the backbone and the quality comes from John Blyth. So that's why he's been chosen as our next object. And as I say, Michael Portillo just weaves into the story. So it is indeed Tales of a Grandfather.
Yeah, the reason I know the Michael Portillo connection, should I say, is that I saw he did one of his programmes, and he stopped in Kirkcaldy and visited where his granddad's factory was. And I remember, that carrying that book that he always carries. I was absolutely ignorant of his connection to the town.
Well, I can add a little bit more, although not too much. But since we wrote the story, and what I didn't want to do was dilute Michael Portillo or John Blyth, but we have discovered a very interesting Fife connection, and yesterday a Broxburn connection with the Blyth family and the music. And what we intend to do is get some photographs, and hopefully a fortnight after publication, we will have an expose, another one, to just add a little bit of colour to the story. And I think actually what we've discovered may well be fresh to Michael Portillo. He might not know this.
Amazing.
In fact, I suspect he doesn't know. So it's we've had a great time with this one. We've been to Crail, we've been to Durham, we've been to Broxburn, we've been in very many places getting this extra bit to the story. So I didn't want to, as I say, dilute what we've got done already. I don't want to take away from Michael Portillo. I don't want to take away from John W. Blyth. Let them stand alone, and then we will fill in this little extra bit, which is, I think, will come as a great surprise to many people.
Well, I can't wait to hear about it. It sounds very, very intriguing. Life was here. And you had a chance to speak to him. What would you say to him?
Oh, what would I say to him? I would congratulate him, I think, more than anything else. He was an organist at Dysart Parish Church. He didn't collect his art for art's sake. He didn't try and compete with anybody else. He just collected for his own taste, which was principally 5 artists, McTaggart, Peplow, Sickart, Wingate, and, oh dear me, I've lost the other one, but not to worry. I would congratulate him because the money didn't matter. He didn't spend a lot on his pictures. He collected for his own taste, and he felt driven to really leave or give away a knockdown price. A marvellous collection of Scottish modern art. So I would thank him more than ask him a question. Although I would like to ask him if a wee bit more about his family. We've tried to find out a little bit more about Sideways, his brothers, etc. But it's not easy. There are too many Blyths in Dysart, let me say.
Yeah, as is always the case when you're doing a little bit of ancestry.
Oh, it's difficult. It is difficult. You spend a fortune in Scotland's people looking at people that are eventually unconnected. But it's a great story because, believe it or not, in 1851, the family were handloom weavers in a weaver's cottage. And that was what they were doing, just handloom weavers. And yet they had the foresight, the drive to push on, get a factory and become hugely successful, and 3 magnificent mansions in Loughborough Road. And all that came from a little family, husband, wife and children, handloom weaving in Hockley Muir. Just incredible. Yeah, not a man who received great wealth inherently. It was a self-made family.
And he's gifted this art collection to the art gallery, which was always open to the public.
Yes, that was his great. He wanted the public to have the opportunity to see quality art. And when you think about it, the family were magnificent because they had 300 odd paintings, which they could have sold for top dollar. But instead, half it went to the town for, honestly, a knockdown price. The other half were sold, but didn't have to do that, didn't have to be done. But such was the connection with the town, the art gallery, and the man, has vastly benefited, and not always recognised.
That's a brilliant 5th object. What can I say?